In a world of increased complexity, reduced lead times, and margin pressure, businesses just like yours are seeking production efficiencies to drive profit. And no platform delivers efficiency and cost control like GSDCost, the global standard in time cost and method analysis. GSDCost turns human motion into a science, converting movements into measurable motion codes to determine the optimal time and sewing method and produce accurate SMVs. Get a crystal clear picture of cost and profit across any style with fast and accurate labor calculations. Develop in-depth training, skills development programs, and performance incentives to supercharge productivity while reducing sampling time and costly reworks. And for hyper-accurate production scheduling and rapid problem solving, integrate with Fast React Plan and Rescue shop floor control. Every second saved on every garment made drives greater productivity and profits. Get ahead with GSDCost from Coats Digital.
Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wesley Ekman. I'm the Sales Director for Coats Digital, and thank you for joining us today. With me on this webinar is Harry Champaneri. He is our Senior Pre-Sales Consultant for GSD, and the topic at hand is SMVs, the way to produce increased productivity, increase efficiency, and focus on improving manufacturing excellence within your method, time, and cost calculations. Agenda for today, we will give you a brief introduction into who we are as Coats Digital, provide some industry context for the conversation, what is impacting businesses externally, what is impacting businesses internally, and teeing up how we look at work contents and the relations to SMVs. We will be then introducing GSDCost as a concept, as an application, as a methodology, and we will talk about its application within businesses, share some case studies, and talk through the business benefits. We, of course, would love to hear from all of you, and we will be doing a Q&A at the end where you can type in your questions, and we'll do our level best to answer all of them at the end. Moving swiftly on. So a quick introduction. Typically in this industry, Coats needs no introduction. We are a global manufacturer ourselves. We focus on performance materials as well as thread, and we are a 250-year-old organization listed on the London Stock Exchange with manufacturing facilities around the world, serving all of our customers. So we understand full well the industry. We are industry experts, and we know the challenges facing all of you in finding efficiencies, improving productivity, and gaining ground in a difficult market. A quick introduction into Coats Digital. So we are a combined organization, a subdivision of the Coats Group. We are both fashion experts, so we've been in this industry for over 30 years, as well as technology leaders. We have deep industry experience. We have global reach with offices all around the world, leveraging off the Coats infrastructure, and we are trusted and connected by brands and manufacturers across the globe. We have, when we refer to GSD, thousands of customers, thousands of factories using this methodology, using this application to improve their SMVs and to improve the way that they engage with their sewers around training, around incentives, around development programs. So let's talk external factors. As we know, since 2019 and the COVID pandemic, there have been increasing pressures on manufacturers, specifically in the garments and textile industry. And what we've seen is a massive rise in labor costs in almost every region. We've seen increasing raw material costs, largely based on the supply chain constraints and the increasing supply chain costs. And of course, prices typically don't move too far upwards in the clothing industry, within retail, so there is always margin pressure. To contextualize, what does this mean? It means that businesses are having to find ways of producing more with the same resources or even less resources. If you're having to pay your people more, if you're having to invest more in your raw materials, and if you're having to, abide by the same selling price, where do you find additional profitability? Where do you maintain those margins from? And that is eliminating waste, eliminating process waste, eliminating movement waste, eliminating operational waste as well. And I think what we're looking at from a GSD perspective is how we help identify that waste within your manufacturing process, how to identify it, how to re-engineer it, and of course, how to make it long-term and sustainably implemented so that you get those benefits consistently and you can find those areas of inefficiency and have the ability to consistently address it. When we talk internal challenges, and for the manufacturers joining us today, these will be you would be no stranger to these. Unknown efficiencies. So, of course, within every manufacturing environment, there is an assumed efficiency, but that efficiency fluctuates depending on the complexity of the garment, depending on the amount that you're producing and the learning curve behind that. It depends on the capability of your workforce. Have they been trained? And it depends on how effectively you set up your factory and your lines. When we talk about production capacities, so that always directly relates to how you calculate your standard minute value, how you determine the optimized way of producing a garment, and what is the logical amount that you can produce based on the number of production hours in a day. And of course, if you get that wrong, it either means delays on the shop floor, waiting times, lull times, and production times, or on the polar opposite, what that means is a lot of overtime, having to try to push for those, to meet those deadlines, those delivery deadlines, and having to work extra, which costs extra, which means that, again, profit erosion. When we talk unbalanced production lines, how do you mix and match skills and capability according to the complexity of that garment, according to your machinery setup, and drive the line balance so that it is the most productive and efficient that it can be. We talk incentives, and there's always that fine balance between having to incentivize them to do that little bit more to achieve those stretch targets, and ensure that when we look at how you balance capacity, efficiencies, that you're not paying them too little, you're not making those incentives unachievable and thereby eroding that motivation rather than incentivizing, but also making sure that those incentives are not too achievable and then obviously overpaying in incentives. Unpredictable CM costs. As costs continue to rise, things become a little more complex to calculate, and it's kind of part and parcel of the business to be able to accurately determine those CM costs up front, and then have the capability to adhere to those once you kick off that manufacturing process. Making sure that you understand your profit margin, making sure you understand your correct capacity, the outputs, the incentives, and that fine balance between it. So where are you today? If you're a manufacturer, you've caught between these two massive kind of forces. Externally, it costs increasing, selling prices staying the same. So how do you do more with less? And then within the organization, within the business, within production, managing the complex requirements on each and every single order. So you ensure that you're optimally efficient, you are driving and fulfilling all of your capacity, that you are not having to go into overtime, you're correctly incentivizing and motivating your workforce, and that once you've completed that order, you're shipping it on time, and that you're going backwards to see, did you manage and to predict those CM costs accurately, and then obviously adjust and adapt if you need to change it on the next order. Good. So I will be handing over to my colleague Harry, who will be taking you through the concepts of measuring work content. Over to you, Harry.
Thanks very much, Wes. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So looking at why do we need to measure the work content? The work content. So what are the work contents involved? What do we measure? So the first thing we look at, not first thing, but we look at product costs. How do we do the product costs? We need to manage that design stage. We can click. So then we look at the operator productivity, which is, again, looking at the team members' performances. We need to calculate that. We need to understand that. So how do we actually do that? Operator incentive, as Wes just mentioned it in the previous conversation regarding incentive schemes, are based on accurate measurement, work measurement content, line balancing as well, factory efficiency, and production planning. So how did we do that before? It's estimation, historical data, which is outdated, because when you have those historical data, when was it collected, when was it estimated, but then the technology's evolved, so the method is old, but the technology evolved, so you're just estimating, and that could cause a problem in the sense of when you're actually costing the garment. And then secondly, time study. Time study is subjective. It's subjective to what you have included in your cycle time. And the other second point of subjectivity in the time study is that performance rating. Your actually assessment of a team member when you're actually doing a time study, that causes proactive discussion regarding the performances that you have applied when you're actually doing a time study. And again, you don't know what you have included in that time cycle. So those calculation or miscalculation can actually cause financial impacts into the business as well. That miscalculation and how it impacts on your financial. The next slide will show you how a miscalculation by 10% can actually cause a bottom line 20% in reduction in profitability. So scientific tools, which I'll go through later, what scientific tool that we actually do that, and it is a global benchmark, which is the tool that we use is GSD, and GSDCost, the solution, the software solution as well, to actually collect your data and store the data and then retrieve the data as well. So the next slide shows you that how the miscalculation by time study or historical data has a financial impact. A planned profit of a FOB of a $5.5 of a garment, bill of material of $3.3, labor cost calculated as $1.10, and overheads at 0.55 cents, and then profit at 10% at 0.5. That's planned. But then the actual is what when you're producing, what happens is that the miscalculation, also the historical data, has that impact. And how does that have impact on the bottom line? So you calculated the profit at 18 million pieces at $5.5 is 99 million, 10% forecasted profit at 9.9 millions, but then the actual profit is 7.92, and there's an annual loss of 1.98. And then how do we then capture that and to reduce that miscalculation? We use the tool called GSD. And the GSD helps you, as Wes mentioned, to look at the process, and evaluate non-value added motions that are happening on your production line. And then we take those, take out those non-value added motions, remove them, and then standardize them. And then we can actually boost our productivity on the production line. Foundation of GSD, it's an international time standard. By applying the appropriate predetermined, all times are predetermined, and motion codes to each step in the method. GSD is all about method. So how do we look at things? How they do that? How is a team member handling? Then evaluating all the non-value added motions that are happening, then standardizing and training your team member to carry out, and that way you can actually improve your productivity through the line. Example here of what the bases are and foundations are of GSD, and this is the GSD code by a language. The GSD new language is the get and put. Here is demonstrated by a team member of how do we get things, how do we put things, and how do we regress and then adjust to get ready to perform the next task. And for that, the code is MG2T, match and get two parts together. And this is at a standard performance, it's roughly about 2 seconds. So taking those 39 codes at the bottom of the pyramid, evaluating the operations, and then removing the non-value added motions, then creating your operations, creating those operations of group. Then we group those operations and we call them features. Every garment has a feature. The garment I'm wearing now at the moment has a collar. So the collar, there are different types of collar on my shirt. So there is profile stitch collar, collar attach, and stand attach, insert interlining, and attach button. Those are 4 or 5 operations to make this collar, and we group them in and then save it in the feature folder, and we create our feature libraries. But then once we create our feature libraries, it is very easy for me to then create a product cost or design cost at the design stage and see or predict what the standard minute value can be. So how do we then use this application to improve the productivity, or how do we actually calculate that operation, what the team member is carrying out here? So method application onto the production line, live environment. The above video shows you a standard video of a GSD, another GSD code. It's again with a GSD language of a get and put. The team member over here is demonstrating obtaining a panel, adding it with the 2 hands to an assembly already under the machine form. That's a standard code of get, put, get, which is described as a MAP2, map2, and then the value is assigned to it. But the method standard, again, GSD is all about step by step, and it's descriptive. You highlighted here on the right-hand side of the screen, where step by step, what the team member below is actually carrying out that profile stitch cuff with a jig, because previously this operation was done manually and then method engineered to increase the productivity, and also consistent in quality, where the jig is actually going to be a standard and it sews consistently and give you that consistent stitching as well. So it was method engineered, but still need to evaluate using GSD. So step by step, team member obtains the cuff, loads it into the jig, close the jig, positions the jig under the machine foot, sews around the shape of the cuff, trims the thread, removes the jig, open the jig, remove the panel, and place it aside onto the member's lap. So the method in GSD is described by step with those 39 codes utilized, and then that gives you a time. So how do we then calculate that time? So the standard minute value process takes you through, in the GSD software, it calculates. So all GSD codes have a time value, which is TMU, time measurement unit. They are converted to basic minutes. Then personal allowance is added, any machine delay if you're utilizing any machine, then the total minutes and any contingency that is applicable, you apply and you have a standard minute value. That is the time for a trained operator to perform at a standard performance, which is 100 performance. That is a standard minute value. Now, is calculated in the software. We put all the information prior to the operations and building up your database. All this information is stored into the company data editor, and when you pull the machine into the operation analysis, it'll then have all this information there. So the next is what we're going to look at is how do we then, that's the GSD software cost. What is the GSD software solution? It is hosted on Microsoft Azure. It has a lot of functions, and this is where the styles are stored, feature libraries are stored, so you can actually easily retrieve. You can see on the screen there, which is the new look of the GSDCost dashboard. On the dashboard, you can visually see what's inside your system and also what's been viewed at the last, and then you can quickly open up the analysis that you're there. GSDCost has a fair wage tool, which the data is being provided by the Fair Wage Network. Fair wage tool, it looks at when you have done the costing as per the region, as per the country, it pulls out the data from the Fair Wage Network, what should be the fair wage in a sense for that particular costed operation or the garment. It has a thread demand. Every GSD sewing operations calculates the thread demand for that particular operation. Then as a style, it groups it together, and then that can be put through our SaaS product again with Seamworks. So then again, you can actually have for the thread demand and also look at the thread consumption for the whole of the style by each individual sewing operation as well. Dynamic updates and alerts are automatically done because it's a SaaS product, so you won't even know whether the updates, you get notification updates, but you don't have to do it manually. It is done automatically. And also the business challenges, intelligence of the dashboards as well, as you can see. So increasing the productivity by utilizing the operations, and then criticizing and eradicating the non-value added motions, reducing the productive costs as well. So you're always looking at, and one thing that GSDCost has as well are version control, so you can actually keep the records of what improvements or what if the method has changed, you can actually then see what the increment or what the method rationalization that you have done throughout this product evolvement as well. So a simple example, next slide, will show you how a method engineering or workplace layout can actually increase the productivity. So it's here is a case study from PT Summerbury that we've done for implementation of GSDCost, and it predicts the cost productivity by 13% when we implemented GSD there. So the top video shows you the current, the way they were doing this particular operation, where the team member is actually obtaining from the left-hand side, positioning it to machine foot, and perfectly showing in one single burst. And the second piece they have to turn or to another direction, place it to the machine foot, sew in one burst, and then continues there. So when we calculated that with the GSD as a current method, it was producing 389 pieces per hour. By just looking at the workplace layout and also requesting from the previous operation how the bundle is requested and how we needed for this operation to carry out, we replaced the bundle to the right-hand side and train the team member to obtain and locate during the site machine time. So then what we've done is remove the non-value added motions that they obtain and locate, and then only the machine time that is calculated as all is happening. The obtaining, the manual handling is happening during the sewing time. So recalculating with the method improvement, it's now, instead of 389 pieces per hour, we increase by 282 pieces, so 671 pieces per hour, increment of 282 pieces. A simple technique of looking at workplace layout, engineering, and also requesting the previous operation or operations to be presented the bundle or the item required so the team member can actually perform the way you have predicted. With GSD, it's predictive. You don't have to see it. Once you are trained as a GSD licensed practitioner, you're able to visualize how this operation can be done, and then apply that method, apply the GSD codes to the method, and you can actually predict what the outcome would be. Then you can actually take that method and apply to onto the production line to see and achieve what you have predicted here. So we have many cases on our website, so you can log into our website and have a look at the previous case studies that we have where we have implemented GSD. So I'll hand you over to my colleague Wesley again. He'll take you through to the next few slides. Thank you.
All right. So thank you, Harry. Appreciate the insights there. So as a quick recap, where are you today? Where are you today as manufacturers? Where are you today in production? You're facing increasing costs. That's a fact. And there is consistent margin pressure. So you either accept that profit erosion is going to be part of your business model, and that is a slippery slope once you get on it, or you can accept that across your organization, within production, within design and development, within sewing, within your industrial engineering, there are inefficiencies. There are business process inefficiencies, there are production inefficiencies, there are design inefficiencies. How do you make garments that are cost effective, simple to execute on, and you're able to apply meaningful incentives? So how does GSD help? Well, firstly, it is a global standard. It is recognized across this industry as being the benchmark and supported by the ILO, the Fair Wage Network, in determining that cost of labor, that bill of labor. Second of all, beyond it being a method, it becomes a single source of the truth. How many of you are currently not just doing guesswork in predicting your SMVs and doing time studies and using historical data, but capturing those on Excel spreadsheets that need to be updated, maintained, and are only as good as the last time you pressed save? What digital transformation is all about is unifying your data, providing a single source of the truth, which can be leveraged by all parties, whether it is your design team, making sure that when they design a product, how they create the product is most effective for the way you manufacture. It could be your industrial engineering team or your merchandising team when they start building out that costing. And of course, how you're executing on that order. So when we look at the duality of both the method and the certification behind GSD, as well as the application of the system of GSD, there are a number of business benefits and impacts. Firstly, having an accurate way to determine the method and the analysis to create the bill of labor. Our systems come with libraries. Those libraries have been calculated over the last 40 years based on industrial engineering best practice. And so you have a benchmark. It is not the quickest, it is not the slowest, it is just the most effective way that we've calculated the way to produce that garment. Whether it is polos, whether it is trousers, whether it is lingerie, baby wear, you name it, technical wear, we've got libraries that cover each and every single garment that you produce today. When we talk about the impact for merchandising, well, now today you can start having fact-based negotiations. We know that there is a big push within this industry for open costing, and how you calculate your labor and how you calculate that bill of labor is super critical when it comes to the negotiating. Why? Because once you've standardized, once you have a scientific method, once you understand what a fair wage looks like, you are better able to ring fence and protect that labor cost within the costing and negotiation discussions with your customers. Okay? And it opens it up, it makes it transparent. And we have a number of examples where we're working with brands on their manufacturing excellence program. So they know, for an example, it takes 3 minutes to produce a t-shirt, but they get variable times from all of their different manufacturers. And once they start getting towards that standard, they can start working with manufacturers to meet that standard, or at least understand why they aren't. What are the different variables that those different manufacturing environments produce that deviate from that standard? We've spoken about the fair wage tool. Now, that fair wage tool is not just something that produces a sustainable report. Of course it is. There is a big shift towards ESG, and of course making sure that how brands do business, how retailers do business, and how we respond as manufacturers is super critical, protecting the rights of our workers. But what this tool also does is gives you the ability, once you know what that standard SMV is, how many minutes it'll take to produce that garment. If you're a multinational manufacturer, you're able to quickly reference what that's going to cost to produce in different countries and different regions at that fair wage, at the current wage that you're paying them. So you're able to do that multi-country, multi-wage calculation quite seamlessly. When we talk about the value add of the method within GSD, it's all around training and development. Okay, once you understand this, once you determine that standard, once you understand that baseline SMV, once you can identify and eliminate those non-value added motions, how do you take that and train it across your entire sewing force, whether it's 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 6,000 workers, wherever it's just down to 30? How do you develop that skills, those capabilities, and their understanding of those motions and the methods they need to use to be consistent? So training and development is a big core part of the value that GSD brings, taking out that guesswork, taking out the subjectivity of working with individuals on those lines. The other business impacts. So again, how do you determine, once you've done that training and development program, what skill level your organization sits at? And it feeds into that skills matrix and who can do what those gaps are, and supporting the effective setup when you're starting to do that line balancing. Business benefit on production, again, method improvements. We know Kaizen, lean methodology, there is always improvements to be made, but it can't be this big bang approach. It's always iterative. It's how to help gain those milliseconds and seconds in each operation, how to help them understand to keep those methods as a standard and to drive that across the business, not just within the sewing floor, but across the end-to-end process. Of course, post-costing analysis, once you start getting more accurate with your SMVs, you start getting more accurate with your costing. Once you get more accurate with your costing, how do you drive a process of continuous improvement? How do you drive better incentives? How do you drive better methods? How do you drive better line balancing? How do you drive, better negotiations so that you continuously have this learning curve as a business? Not using historical, outdated information, but using live, real-time information and benchmarking yourself against that. We talk about the overarching benefits of using the GSD methodology and system within your organization. Again, costing optimization. So one, having the ability to have better cost prediction. And number two, using the science and the credibility that GSD comes with to drive better fact-based negotiations. We talk about driving manufacturing excellence. How do we improve efficiency? How do we increase output? And how do we standardize skills? All comes from having an accurate SMV, driving a method improvement, that continuous method improvement, a focus on quality, not quantity, having the ability to integrate into planning tools like Fast React Plan, and working with engineering, with your skills, with your training to have a more improved and better balanced production lines. Ultimately, what does that bring? It brings higher performance. It brings less guesswork. It brings better relationships with your customers. And of course, that means eliminating waste, eliminating inefficiency, increasing output, and maintaining, if not increasing, your profitability within each and every single order. We thank you guys for listening in, for stopping by, and we are going into the Q&A section now. So there are some parts of the webinar where you can type in your questions, and Harry and myself will endeavor to answer each and every single one of them. Obviously, as the sales guy, I will say yes to everything. And if there are difficult, hard technical questions, I will defer to the depth of experience that Harry can bring to this webinar. Thank you. Good. So we've disabled the chat. So you will see right at the bottom of the screen, there is a Q&A section. That is where we would ask that you post your questions. And I will be reading those questions, curating those questions, and Harry and myself will be answering those questions. We will try to get to each and every single one. But if we don't, we will make our contact details available, and we can schedule a follow-up call or a meeting to go through your particular challenges that you might be experiencing. So opening up the chat. Yes, okay. So there was a couple of people just saying there were some sound issues. Apologies for that. We have recorded this session. It will be available for a rewatch later. We could potentially send out the link, and we will make sure that if the sound was bad, you can rewatch it, or if some of your colleagues hadn't joined, that the session is available. So, Sadiq Permana. Harry, I don't know if you're busy reading that one, but it's just very complimentary.
Yes, thanks, Sadiq. We'll catch up later, my friend. Thank you very much for your support. But it's all down to you. Well done. Thanks.
Sadiq just complimenting Harry on his teaching and his guidance, and helping him contextualize how to be a better industrial engineer. Good. Mr. Jeharol Islam, thank you for your question. which is, what is the purpose of fair wage tools? And that is a really great question, and thank you for asking it. So fair wage tools encompasses so much as a feature of our system. So firstly, the intention was really to be able to give manufacturers the capability, once they had a standardized SMV, so let's say 4 minutes, to be able to look across their manufacturing environment, if they were multinational manufacturers, and understand what it would cost to produce in Bangladesh versus Vietnam versus China versus Turkey versus Mexico, as an example. So you're able to easily calculate what that bill of labor and that cost of labor will be based on the location that you determine that you want to manufacture in. So potentially that could be offsetting, a cheaper production cost with a quicker production time, if you want to nearshore or offshore or whatever the case may be. Out of that really came this concept of, how are we delivering value back to brands who are now ever increasingly more responsible for their supply chains, and provide a report on the labor cost related to those orders. So how much are you paying your people to produce those garments for that specific order, for that specific brand? And ensuring that when there is cost pressure, that cost pressure is not being transferred onto those employees. So how do we pay our employees a fair living wage? Not simply just, in many instances, minimum wage, but a fair living wage that enhances their lives and adds value to them. Everybody is a stakeholder in this industry, from a sewer all the way up to a CEO. And so the fair wage calculator is both a tool as well as a reporting mechanism to show that you are operating ethically, that this order or the production that you're doing is based on best practice, best principles, aligned to the right labor wages, so that when you produce those orders, when you produce those garments, it is done ethically, and it is done sustainably, and it is done to the benefit of all parties, whether it is an individual sewer, whether it is the manufacturing business, or whether it is the brand or retailer. Okay, excellent. I hope I answered that question, Mr. Islam. So the next question, Rajesh Ravendran, is there any supporting tool to determine SMV and thread consumption if we upload a tech pack with construction details and graded measurement charts? Harry, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, we can. What we have the GSD QED libraries, which are standard generic libraries that would be helpful, that you could actually utilize to calculate your SMV. At the same time, you can actually then calculate the thread consumption as well. But mainly, it will be done with the GSD implementation. So if you're asking whether do we have a tool that you can just plug in your tech pack, and then on the construction breakdown, can our system produce an SMV and thread consumption using our QED standard generic QED libraries? Yes, you can, in a sense, to do that. I hope that answers your question as well.
Mm-hmm. So along with the fair wage calculator, we also have an integration into Seamworks, which was the original thread consumption calculator by Coats. We've incorporated that into GSD. So we're able to provide both of those answers to you straight out of the system. So I will combine two questions. So Mr. Mohammed Arif Billah, you've asked on the Sumbri cases, are those practically achieved production as per the standard GSD SMV? And Mr. Jagadish, you've asked if there was an implementation that they did to reduce the SMV. So I think it's important to explain quickly that GSD is both an application, so a system where we store data, where we store libraries, where we're able to help you determine the calculations, based on the different features or methods that you want to use in producing a garment in theoretical terms, okay? But it is also a methodology. It's a process of identifying inefficiencies, identifying process or product engineering opportunities to make sure that your organization is more effective and more productive and more efficient every time you produce a garment, whether it's a garment that you produce as a standard or whether there is a lot of newness within your business. So when we talk about do we practically achieve the SMV, the SMV is actually quite subjective, to be honest with you. And I think, Harry, you can talk more on this, but different manufacturing environments have different skills levels. They have different machinery that run at different rates. And all of those add up to what would be your most effective SMV. So it's not really about how you're achieving a GSD SMV as an example in one of our libraries, but on using the methodology and approach to determine, based on your unique environment, what is the best SMV that you can achieve. And using that scientific formula to produce that costing for your customers, okay? And then working with those brands in many instances to improve that process. It's about a process of improvement. It's not about running the 100 meters in 10 seconds, okay? That is only possible for a few people on this planet. This is about doing the 100 meters in your best time, doing the best garment that you can produce based on the environment that you have. And in effect, what we see with our customers is them building up their own parallel libraries. So it is a standard that we're giving you. It's a benchmark based on, unbiased methodology. And then it's about you applying that methodology in your own environment to determine whether you can better that time, or if you're not bettering that time, what are the underlying factors that contribute to that time erosion, and how can you improve it? And often it comes over years and years of applying this methodology, and it's cyclical in the way you upgrade your machinery and your shop floor environments, that only will you start getting to certain times. So again, just to repeat, yes, there is a system. Yes, there are standards. Yes, there are ways of calculating performance enhanced SMVs and standards and thread consumption and different wages and the fair wage payment around that and producing different reports. But GSD is a concept, and that was where that comment was coming from, complimenting Harry. It's how you apply that methodology. It's that mindset, it's that vision, and it's the ability to do that consistently that matters most. So a lot of the training that we spend in GSD is literally practical on the shop floor, working with your styles, working with your sewers, working with your merchandisers, working with your industrial engineers to make sure we can identify those mindset challenges, the change challenges, and start applying that methodology. Good. So I hope I've answered that question. Yes, we practically achieve all of those results. There are always efficiency improvements within every manufacturing environment. There is not one customer we have gone into and not found anything, that I can promise you. And typically, we do anything between 2% to 8% efficiency and productivity improvements. That's a fairly large range, but for really strong, capable, high manufacturing environments, to squeeze out an additional 2% is a fantastic result. It's, as you get closer to perfection, it takes you a little bit longer and more time and more effort to get those marginal gains. For really raw manufacturing environments, which is the standard across this industry, 8% plus is something that we see on a consistent basis. Okay, good. Mr. Raman, your question is sewing time calculation by manual button stitch From GSD, manual for button, stitch, sewing time, T equals SXBS. So for the manual calculation, formula is coming to T equals number of stitch times 2000 RPM plus 9. I didn't find this formula from the manual. I've studied the software and I found it on my own. So is this the right formula? If so, then what is 2000 and what is 9?
Okay, Wes, I'll take this. Thank you very much.
Thank God, Harry.
Well done, Mr. Rahman. Yes, absolutely. But unfortunately, obviously, I can't discuss the formulas. They are copyrighted at the moment. But I can take your question off the line, and myself and yourself can have a conversation on this, yeah, and take you through that calculation.
Okay, great.
Right. Yeah.
I will take the next question then. Mr. Rana, Mr. Shahil Rana, thank you for your question, which is, how do you integrate Fast React with GSD? And that's one of my favorite questions to answer. So as Coats Digital, we are the market leaders now in what we call plan to pack production. So we have a PLM helping you better design, better develop, better engineer products for your manufacturing environment. We, of course, have GSD, which is the topic for today, and how to calculate your labor costs, how to identify your optimized SMV, and how to develop those manufacturing excellence programs for your sewers in and around the standardization of methodology. Fast React Plan, for all of those people that have joined today, is our planning and production and capacity management solution. And that is another leap forward for many manufacturers in how, once you have that standard SMV, do you start planning out those different orders across different lines, across different factories, and being able to handle the ever-changing complexity that happens within a manufacturing environment, whether you have the materials arrive early, whether you have the materials arrive late, how to optimize your cutting, and how to make sure that you're eliminating those bottlenecks within sewing so that you can produce to a standard to that time. And that is Fast React Plan. So Fast React Plan does integrate into GSD like GSD integrates into PLM. And where we're going as an organization is we want to have a harmonious system, a single login system, which is Coats Insights, where you're easily able to access all of our applications. So those of you running an ERP will be familiar with this kind of concept, where, you know, those with finance access can access the GL, the AP, the AR. Those with warehousing access can access inventory and the warehouse functionality, HR, labor, whatever the case may be. And so what we're building is almost a tier 2 ERP to plug into your upward business ERP, but that focuses on manufacturing performance, whether it's design and development for designers and merchandisers, whether it is costing around your bill of labor or your bill of materials, whether it is, you know, calculating that SMV, whether it is improving your fabric management, cutting room performance, and whether it is planning out those orders to make sure consistently you're on time every time and you're being profitable. So there are certain ways to integrate Fast React with GSD. We're building those integrations natively as we upgrade our solutions into the cloud. And Mr. Rana, we would be great to have another conversation with you around that. Okay. Mr. Rahman, you've asked another question. So why is MABT is counting as manual TMU instead of machine TMU?
Okay, Wes, I'll take this. Yes, you're right. But in our GSDCost, it is now in the machine TMU. In our version GSD V4, it was as a machine handling. That's why it was put into the manual TMU instead of machine TMU. But now with the GSDCost, our web version now have corrected all our machine handling codes are in machine TMU column.
Okay. So there's a couple of questions on one, Mr. Patana, how can I get GSD training? Two, Mr. Biller, you've asked is GSD practically in Bangladesh? Let's see here. And then Mr. Naresh Trivedi, how is the SAM standard allowed minutes changes with geographies? Okay, good. So I'll answer a couple of those things. So number one, GSD is a global application. We as Coats Digital have teams, offices, customers, customer success teams, support teams everywhere that manufacturing in the garment industry is done. So from China to Hong Kong to Taiwan to South Korea to Japan to Vietnam, Thailand to Indonesia, where else am I missing? To Bangladesh, to Pakistan, to India, to Sri Lanka, to Middle East and Africa, to Turkey, and all the way through to the Americas like LATAM and Colombia. We have teams, we have industry experts, we have consultants, and we have installations and customers in those specific environments. So when you look at GSD as a solution, it is not only the industry standard, but it is applicable wherever you go and practical wherever you go. How do you get GSD training? Well, that comes with an investment into the GSD application, because the training and the application go hand in hand. So it is a 6-month training environment, which includes the installation of the software. It includes the training of your people. It includes the exams and the certifications of your practitioners. And it also includes the exams and certification of your factories. So I hope I've answered that question. It is tried and tested. So whether there is a change in geography, whether there is a change in time zone, it is largely been accommodated and proven across the globe. And so when you look at things like Fair Wage Tool, that helps you calculate different wages in different countries. The thread consumption tool still applies, and SMVs or SAMs, and you've used Mr. Trivedi, SAM. Those wouldn't change with geographies. It would change with manufacturing environments based on your skill level, based on your line layout, based on your machinery, and the speeds that machinery runs. Mr. Rahman, you've asked what a BOL is, a bill of labor. So how do you calculate how much time, how much people are required to produce that sort of order based on your ship to date? How does small industry benefit by the software? Great question, actually. So prior to the last 3 months, there was a fairly complex way around calculating the cost of GSD. For our customers, however, today, what we've moved to is a pay-per-user model, okay? We have a pay-per-user model for small businesses, which includes 2 libraries and a certain set of features and functions that will be included in that small business package. We have a medium enterprise package, which has 6 libraries, so you can access 6 libraries. It's enhanced features and functionality like fair wage, like the thread consumption report. And then moving on to the enterprise, you have unlimited access to all of our libraries. We have a customer success manager that will help you ensure you can implement the methodology, the training, the certification, and supports in the calculation of different SMV benchmarks, as well as access to things like the Seamworks application and other unique features and functions within GSD. So how do we support this entire industry? Well, firstly, we recognize that a pay-per-user model makes it quite easy in calculating, how many people you need within the organization, and the return on investment is exponential. I mean, you'll see a 12% improvement just in the first 6 weeks, and then it settles into that 2 to 8%, as I've said. But we have an application and a package for each and every type of business out there. So if you are small and thought this was impossible before, give us a call, because it would be great to be in touch with you. Good. Mr. Rumakinga, you've asked, what about GSD at the cutting stage? Harry, you want to answer that question, and I can work with you on that as well?
Sure, absolutely. Why not? In the sense that, but we have a solution which is perpetual, but we are working, and it is on the roadmap to look at the cutting side. But if you look at the cutting activities in the cutting room, it is all with manual handling. So also that what you do, so you need to utilize GSD. So you need to know GSD first. Then obviously that's applicable. You need to create those operations and activities using GSD codes. Then you can then it can implement it into the cutting room as well. But we are working on the SaaS solution of the cutting environment. But basically, you need to know GSD first to be utilized the cutting room activities as well. But we have that on roadmap at the moment. Wesley, if you can just concur that on the cutting software.
Yeah, 100%. So as we say, we've been in this industry for a very long time. So there is almost no part of the factory or the manufacturing process that we haven't touched. We do have another application within our product stack, which is Fast React Fabric, that both looks at your cutting room planning, optimizing your lay plans for improved fabric utilization and improved end bit utilization, and also feeds back into how you purchase materials. Because if you're reducing the amount of fabric that you need to cut, well, then logically you would need to reduce the buffer at which you buy. And so in hand working with GSD, we can help you optimize your cutting room environment and the approach.
Anything that you can manufacture, utilizing manpower and machinery and methods, we can implement GSD. We can calculate GSD times SMV. So it's not just restricted to, in a sense, when you say just the apparel or the fashion, but any types of clothing, in a sense, the workwear, also the outerwear, sportswear, all manufacturing environment can utilize GSD to calculate their processes. Can we arrive GSD SMV without videos? Okay, Devraj, can you arrive with GSD without videos? When you are trained, you're looking at the motions, and once you get practice, you know what those motions and what those codes can be. You can actually, the video is actually helps you to actually refine it in a finer way. But when you are trained, you're trained to look at all the motions, and you should be able to arrive. But the video helps a lot in the sense of looking at other motions that may require, because you're looking at live. You can still analyze it with the gets and puts, and you can arrive at the analysis without a video as well. But the video helps to implement that method into second operator, third operator, or second production line or third production line, because now you can actually see it how it's been done. So video does help, but you can utilize without videos. Next question. Hi, Harry and Wesley. Thank you for your sharing today. I would like to have a question that SMV will be the same for all factories. Again, I think Peter, I think Wes earlier explained, it depends on the environment. Yes, of course, GSD is transferable between locations. So you can, long as the same environment, same machinery setting, same workplace layout, that of course then it can be the same as well. But you can analyze how it is in this factory, then you can share and see which is the benefit, and then actually mirror image into the other second factory as well.
On that note, we are going to have to end the webinar today. As I've said, the questions have been wonderful. They've been so engaging. It's such a big concept, GSD, that it always takes multiple rounds of discussion. And we hope that many of you will be following up on the questions that you've asked here today, or the answers that you've heard here today, and in reaching out to us as a business, as individuals, so that we can start opening up that dialogue, start working with you and your teams to understand the practical application of the solution within your
manufacturing environment, working with your executive teams to understand the importance of not just shop floor transformation, but digital transformation, moving away from paper-based environments, Excel-based environments, and supporting better collaboration, better control, better customer relationships, improving those efficiencies and productivity and performance, and at the end of the day, making happy, profitable businesses. Good. So thank you, Harry, very much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the Fibre2Fashion team for setting up this webinar, for their consistent support and professionalism, and of course the marketing team that is ever present, ever helpful, and for helping us put this all together. But you're able to connect with me on LinkedIn, Harry on LinkedIn, and also through our website, coatsdigital.com. We are excited to work with many of you, all of our customers. Without you, this is rather meaningless. So we thank you for affording us an hour of your precious time today, and we hope that we can connect with you in the near future and work with you going forward. So thank you once again, and take care, everybody. Thank you all for your time. Have a wonderful day ahead, and we will speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, all. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.